Yep, your buddy. Chief. How you doing, sir? I'm good. I rode down from St. Petersburg, 20 minutes ago. You're kidding. Yeah.
Glad you made it.
Washington.
All right.
All right.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District regular board meeting for Monday, April 9th, 2018 to order. Please rise for a moment of silence for fallen firefighters and their families, followed by an invocation by Chaplain Chitwood.
There are 12 firemen this past month that have lost their lives. Let's remember them in a moment of silence. God, we come to you this evening and we give honor to those who have made the supreme sacrifice as they served across this nation and different fire districts and cities. And Lord, we ask that you might be with their families, give them strength and peace during this time. Lord, we ask for protection for the firefighters that serve here in Bonita, that you might watch over them and surround them with your protection. We thank you for our country. We thank you for the freedom we have, and we pray that we'll never forget that or take that for granted. Be with those that serve across this nation and our military to keep us safe. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comment on agenda items this evening? Okay, I need approval of the March meeting minutes. One motion
I would like to make a comment about it.
after a motion and a second. You
I
make a
make a
motion?
second, or whichever you...
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and you have a comment?
Yes, I do. One correction, when it would be on Commissioner's business, last sentence. The fitness proposal was tabled until next month's board meeting. It should actually read the proposal was postponed. There was no motion to table or second to table, but there was a unanimous agreement to postpone it to this meeting.
Okay, we'll make that correction, and all in favor of the minutes with that amendment?
Aye.
Thank you. I need an approval of the March 2018 financials in one motion for current expenditures and ACH payments, the acknowledgement of financial report, and the acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfers between accounts.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item, presentations. Chief?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. First, we'd like to have a presentation for, it's a pinning ceremony for probationary firefighter Gabriel Puente. Okay. Not a good sign for a probationary firefighter.
It's ex-probationary fireman.
Okay. Must have been a real emergency. Mr. Puente, if you would come up front, please. Today's your pinning. Just go ahead and stand right there. I do believe he has someone here, his sister, Lynn Truckenmiller, who would like to pin him.
Photo op.
Photo bombs. We have a distinguished guest here this evening from the U.S. Coast Guard. Commander Grushow would like to come up and say a few words to us. I'd like to give him a welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, members of the executive staff, and to the men and women of the Bonita Springs Fire and Rescue District, and to the citizens of this wonderful community. I am Chief Warrant Officer Robert Grushow, Commanding Officer of Coast Guard Station Fort Myers Beach. It is a privilege to be representing Admiral Peter J. Brown, 7th Coast Guard District Commander. It is an honor to be presenting this award to the Bonita Springs Fire Control Rescue District. Since 2004, Bonita Springs Fire Rescue and Coast Guard Station Fort Myers Beach have been working and training together as members of the Lee County Emergency Response Team. This collaboration has significantly increased the quality of maritime emergency services to the citizens of Bonita Springs and beyond. Bonita Springs Fire Rescue, while in this role, has saved countless lives and millions of dollars worth of property. Chief, will you please join me?
In recognition of noble services that have assisted in furthering the aims and functions of the Coast Guard, takes pleasure in presenting the Meritorious Public Service Award to Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue. Department of Homeland Security, United States Coast Guard, for the Commandant, P.J. Brown, Rear Admiral, U.S. Coast Guard, Commander, 7th Coast Guard District.
Pass it around, Chief. Thank you.
I did want to mention something, and I'll just say it from up here. Since 2004, we have been working very, very closely with the United States Coast Guard, and this really could not have happened without then Lieutenant Richie Scott, who leads, or Lieutenant, you were Lieutenant back then, Deputy Chief Richie Scott, who is actually the tip of the spear for all the fire districts in the county for providing this incredible service that we give to our citizens and residents who are out there playing on the water and having a good time. So this is also for the board and past boards who continue to support the program in conjunction with the Coast Guard in providing this service. So thank you, gentlemen, and appreciate it, Commander, as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Well, for my personal thanks, Chief Scott, for his cooperation over the years and for his leadership in this project, where we've come a long way from the little boat to the potentially nice big boat. But I know you've done most of all the work, Chief, and I certainly appreciate it.
I think there's a lot of citizens in this town who will say dilly-dilly to that. Chief, you got some Phoenix Awards.
Yes, sir. I'd like to turn this over to Deputy Chief Scott, who runs our EMS division.
Good afternoon. On February 21st, at Bonita Bay Beach Park, there was a gentleman that's here with us this afternoon that collapsed on the beach. And bystanders that were nearby, some of which he knew, rendered assistance to him, initiated CPR, found an AED, a nearby AED, and used it effectively, defibrillated him. And when our crew showed up a few minutes later, and I'll introduce them in a few minutes, this story has a little bit of a twist to it. Our Lieutenant Tom Harrison appeared on scene just to see what was unfolding in front of him, noticed that several of the people that were administering care to our patient, he had just trained in CPR here at the Bonita Springs Fire Department. So I think he realized that they were doing it effectively and using the AED as they should. Now, just to put a little emphasis on what was going on there, when an AED actually shocks or defibrillates someone, it means that person is in an electrical rhythm. Their heart is in an electrical rhythm that is not producing a pulse or moving oxygen. It also means that person will not survive much longer without intervention. We are finding more and more that bystander intervention is the reason these people are surviving. And once again, we're reminded, I believe, that shortly after they appeared, they found a pulse on this person. So we're here to recognize the care, the emergency, professional, outstanding care, starting with the bystanders. We tend to focus on what we do, and we do an outstanding job as well. We're a little biased here because that's what we do for a living, but that's our job. So now the public is stepping up, and month after month, we've been in here and seeing these same results. Again, it can't be understated. I think I overstate it when I come up here, how much that intervention, what a difference that makes. So we encourage all of you to continuously spread the word to friends, family, bystanders, to learn how to do at least chest compressions and use an AED. And the other thing I have to say, remind, a little teaching moment, know where those AEDs are. Many times we go to do presentations on an AED and we walk in and there's a sign and one on the wall, and I'll ask, do you all know where the AED is in this building? And it's crickets. People don't know. Pay attention to it like you pay attention to exit signs. It may save someone's life, as it did that we're celebrating here. The other thing I want to mention is we're celebrating that this individual is sitting with us today with his wife and his family, and he continues to lead a life because of the actions of the people in this room. So, okay. So let me introduce the people we're talking about here. I want to start with the bystanders, and forgive me if I don't get this exactly right. And once we call your name, can you please come up to the front of the room? And we'd like to give you something to recognize your actions that resulted in such a positive way. Sandy Myers, Jim Haynes, Kent Cipher, Matt Groover, and Roger Todd. Let's stand out here in the front. Chief will give you a hand. No. Okay, but wait, there's more. So now, once we've recognized these fine people, we want to go on to the next crew that showed up. This is all part of our emergency services. It's got to start with the public. And then I think our crew showed up next, and that was Battalion Chief Harrell. I don't know if he's with us tonight, but he showed up, Lieutenant Paramedic Tom Harrison. Firefighter Paramedic Eric Del Pozo. And Firefighter EMT Nick Hemmerer. If you all come up front. Yeah, and then Lee County EMS ambulance crew arrived on scene, also assisted with care, continued the treatment all the way to the hospital. And we have Jeff Sims, and is Dawn McBride was with you? Okay, I want to recognize her as well. Thank you, sir.
It's a wonderful thing. Thank you. We're going to take a couple of minute break for anybody that doesn't want to sit through the rest of the meeting. You're more than welcome to leave. You're also welcome to stay, but we will take a couple of minute break if anybody would like to exit. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Next agenda item is Commissioner's Business. Commissioner Murphy?
I have no additional business today.
Commissioner Casella?
Yes, I have a question for the chief, just to follow up on the check punch list I had for Station 6. What's progress on that?
Yes, sir. It's my understanding that the punch list is completed, aside from our responsibility, such as the generator.
Now, you had mentioned it in the past about the cracks in the floor. Are they going to wait on that, or what's their...
Yeah, it's, according to the contractors, you have to wait for the building to settle to some degree before it may be worth fixing.
Okay. I don't like the answer, but that's okay. Being a
Yes, sir.
contractor myself.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
That it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fitzgerald?
I have a few things. One, by the way, very impressed to see the room full with citizens and interested people. And I'm disappointed that it's not full all the time. I have a recommendation, not a motion, recommendation to the board that one of two things. I can write a letter to the editor and reminding people that they're invited and we want them to come. Something that they should know anyway, or the board could do that. We could all sign it, Board of Fire Commissioners. It's shameful how few people come to the meetings and really how important they are. So I propose that if you'd like, I'll write a letter. They print my letters, by the way, I'd love to. But write a letter to the editor encouraging the citizens to come. We want them. They should be here. Okay, I'll do that. Second thing I want to mention is last week we talked about the pension, payments of the pension, that there would be no payments, no citizen contributions to the pension system in 2024, I believe you said. I don't understand how that's possible. So I'm asking you for some sort of documentation, maybe from the actuaries who handle our pension. I don't want a 40-page report of numbers, but I want something that I can understand and believe, because I don't believe that from when I think that in 2024 we may have 10 or 15 more people coming on the pension. So I'm asking you for that, Chief. And I'm also asking you that on our agenda in the future, we have a note that reminds the people when the pension boards are, when the pension board meets. Just as a reminder, somebody might show, including myself, if I were reminded. I think that's important. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I brought up a question about the firemen and civilian vacations. I thought they were excessive. I think the board didn't think I understand, and maybe they still don't think I understand 10 weeks vacation, but I do. And 8.5 weeks vacation for civilian employees, and I do. So I'm asking that in the future, we find a better way to negotiate these contracts so we're not giving away the store. 10 weeks vacation is giving away the store. And the way to do that is to have labor attorneys or someone else beside the chief or beside us internally negotiating the contracts. I could make a motion next board meeting that we hire an attorney for future, starting even this year. And I do know we have a current 3-year contract, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to know, is there an opener in there? Is there a possibility we could open this contract and look at some of these things that I think are largesse rather than fair labor negotiations? So, I'm going to make that motion. I can't make a motion now, but I can make a motion at the next board meeting that we hire an attorney in the future for labor negotiation contracts. Okay? I have one more. No, I have a couple more. The chairman of this board is if I'm not mistaken, is a position that comes up each year.
Every 2 years.
Say that again?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, okay. I believe Commissioner Lohan's been the chairman for 6, 7, 8 years. I don't think that's an appropriate way for all of the commissioners to participate in this board. I don't know why. I mean, Commissioner Lohan, I'm not picking on him for his efficiencies or his methodology or anything. I'm just wondering why we, the other 4, aren't interested in being the chairman. So I'm going to make a motion next month also that, what date and time do we decide the chairman's position?
The first meeting after the election.
Sometime I'd like to have the chief answer too, by the way.
I thought you were asking us.
Okay.
I believe the chairman is correct.
I'm sure he's correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'll mark that down. I'm not trying to upset the apple cart here. I'm trying to run it as efficiently as we can. I'm not striving to be the chairman, but I think that some of the other people here have been here long enough, and they should be stepping up, and they should demonstrate to us their way of running the board. Okay. I have a question for you, Chief, and for Chief DeWitt. Talking about pensions, are you in the drop program? Are you eligible for the drop program?
No, sir.
When will you
I'm
be?
not in the drop program.
Yeah, are you
currently.
eligible?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And Chief DeWitt, are you eligible for the drop program? Or are
He's-
you in?
I can answer. He'll be available for the drop program once he qualifies as well.
Yeah.
Neither one of us qualify at this time.
I guess I better ask the question differently. When will you be eligible for the drop program?
Me or the chiefs?
Next July.
Next
Actually,
July?
August 1st.
And Chief DeWitt the same?
December.
December of this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Interesting that our 2 chief executive officers are potentially replaceable. Maybe not replaceable because the drop program gives you 5 more years. But I wonder if the board thinks about their top-level people leaving, or do we even plan for when you leave? When Chief Kinsey left, he stood up and recommended one of the chiefs, and we approved it. I made a motion that we do an outside executive search for the chief, The board didn't agree, so wasn't done. Okay, that's good information.
I didn't say I was going in the drop at that time. That's just what I'm
Chief.
eligible.
I don't blame
I
you
don't
for
want you to
not
think I'm leaving.
but I do blame you if you don't get in the drop program. I think that would be a mistake of your life. Okay. Couple more. As you know, I was a commissioner and was ousted by recommendation of the Naples Daily News they gave me a negative endorsement. But there was a couple of things that went on that were never picked up as far as I know. Chief Fernandez during that time, there was a question about adequacy of fire hydrants in Bonita Springs. We had a fire, and there was a substantial loss. I don't know if we can exactly blame it on the absence of fire hydrants, but we had that condition again, a second time. I thought it was an absence of fire hydrants. BSU, our utility company, who has the responsibility for installing hydrants, we contacted them. I went to see them personally with Chief Kinsey, and they promised they would correct the situation. They would provide hydrants within the city according to a national standard. Okay? And I believe they gave Chief Fernandez a schedule of when they would start, where they would start, and when they would finish. I lost my position. I didn't follow up on it. I don't know if they ever provided that. I don't know if they ever started. But I am concerned, by the way, fire hydrants are critical, in my eyes, critical to the operation of a fire department, safety of the residents. And at the time we brought this issue up, there was an inadequacy of hydrants. They were not where they were supposed to be. So, Chief Hernandez is not here. I'm going to ask you for BSU's report, and if they complied with it, and when we may be finished. You understand? Okay. Very similarly, by the way, we had a fire, controlled burn fire from the Forestry Department in Bonita Springs a couple of years ago. That bothered me also. Bothered me that, and by the way, still bothers me, controlled burns seem to be a very big problem in Florida. Chief Kinsey and I went to the Forestry Department to find out if there was something wrong, right, or whatever it was. I was very disappointed to find out the Forestry Department gives permits for controlled burning with minimum standards, requirements, anything, and minimum participation with the fire department in the area that they've given permission for controlled burn. There was an agreement at that meeting that they would initiate some procedures that would satisfy Chief Kinsey and myself about whether they should get a permit to burn in our city. Because I believe he told me it was their authority, state authority, they could burn anytime he wanted, and I told him no. Fire safety in the city is a responsibility of the fire chief and the fire prevention chief. So anyway, we made some sort of an agreement. I was curious whatever happened to it is what I'm asking you. What happened to that agreement? The agreement was basically the chief would receive notification of every burn in advance, the size of the burn area, who or how many people would supervise it on their part, what fire prevention equipment would be provided, and we accepted the obligation to do a survey, a site survey of the site, the burn site, before they did the burn. And if the chief felt it was unsafe, that the burn would be prohibited. And also, depending on the size of the site, we might make a drive-through during its operation. I'm asking you, Chief Kinsey and I agreed that this policy would be put into effect. As far as I know, it wasn't, and it may have been. But so I'm asking you, Chief, do we have a policy? Do we have a procedure working with the Forestry Department on controlled burn fires in our city?
Yes, sir. There is basically, it's a three-prong approach where you have the city involved, the fire district, and the Division of Forestry. Forestry is typically responsible for all controlled burns in the state of Florida. In fact, any brush fire, controlled or not controlled, is their responsibility. We've run into some issues with that with mutual aid for outside counties and reimbursement. However, the city has a burn ordinance that determines whether or not you can or cannot burn within the city. Additionally, that from my understanding, if I can go back of when I last read it, it does give me the authority to approve or not approve hazardous conditions or non-hazardous conditions within the city limits. Since that incident happened several years ago, when we do obtain burn permits from the Division of Forestry, we send one of our battalion chiefs out to do exactly what you're talking about. We get notified of every single burn that happens in the city or in the district. And once that notification comes across, we review it and we send the appropriate troop out there or battalion chief, typically it is, to review the process and what safety precautions they have in place and whether or not it's hazardous or not. If we do need to put a truck there, we do. If we don't, we don't. That's all determined by the operations of the district. But so we do keep very tight controls on what's burning in and out of the district at this time.
I think that's excellent, and I'm glad to hear that. Is it a written procedure? Does the department know it, or is it something between you and Forestry Department?
It's in the burn ordinance from the city, has the burn ordinance, in fact.
It's not a procedure and policy of the Bonita Springs Fire Department?
It's not
No.
really, the only thing I could see a policy would say is whenever there is a burn permit that we send a battalion chief out to take a look at it. Other than that, it's already basically memorialized in the city,
Okay.
the city ordinance.
I'm sure you understand my concern.
Yes, sir.
There's a fire, that fire that we're talking about was huge, and there was smoke throughout the whole city.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind you, in Fort Lauderdale, just a couple of years ago, there was a controlled burn that got away also.
Mm-hmm.
And the smoke condition got so bad on, whatever that road is, 96 or north and south, there was a couple of crashes and 10 people died. 10 people died as a result of a controlled burn. Maybe conditions were beyond someone's control, but I have a feeling that they were issuing burn permits without adequate controls. Okay.
I will let you know that last year, when we were having all those brush fires, massive brush fires we were having down south,
Yeah.
we, along with the city, I spoke with the city manager, Carl Schwing, and we did issue a burn ban, which the city issued the burn ban in conjunction with
Yeah.
us. So that, I believe that was in effect for 4 to 6 months, I believe it was, about 4 to 6 months, where we did not allow any types of burns. And the city burn ordinance is quite restrictive.
Okay. I'll get a copy of that, and I'll look at it. I thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
These things are brought up for everybody's benefit, really. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Did you have something you wanted additional?
Yes, the year for the pension being fully funded, 2024, my recollection, Chief, is that that was 2030 is what your marks were last meeting.
20 years from now, 2039, 21 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Machero?
Nothing.
All I have this evening is I would like to commend the work that was put into the 2017 annual report. And Lisa, your staff, and especially Nicole did an outstanding job on it, and kudos.
Thank you.
Next item is old business, fitness proposal.
Yes, sir, I'd like to have a motion to have that approved.
What was the proposal?
We were going to review a survey of the firefighters.
Right.
Yes, sir, and I believe the chief has that information.
Yes, we did conduct a survey of all the employees here on the suppression side, and we had 35 interested and 46 not interested. They cited the main reason those not interested seemed to be location. There was not a gym near where they lived.
There's a motion, and I'll second. I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Well, anybody have any discussion?
Chief, would it be your recommendation that we make that available to the 35 interested people, or?
I would say yes. I would say yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. If we do it for 35, just dealing with contract negotiations over the last 10 years or so, if we do it for 35, the other 47 are going to come back and say, well, it's costing you this much for those 35. We want that same amount of money added to our pay for the 47. I'm playing devil's advocate here, but that looms large, that the potential is there. That
Would you think it's possible for us to wait until this contract is over and build it into the new contract?
if we were going to do it, it should be part of a contract proposal, but I'm just one vote. I think it's all or nothing. I think everybody does it or nobody does it, because if we start getting piecemeal, I can foresee it becoming an issue, and maybe not even from union leadership, but from just, you know,
We can make it available to everyone, and they can opt out if they don't want it.
and I think that can be done as part of the negotiation of the next labor contract, rather than trying to add something now that I don't know what the percentage was, but it's less than half want it. That's the only fly in the ointment I see. It could become a stickler, a real bad sticking point for the people that don't take it, and they're going to feel like they should have something because they didn't take that.
Chief, when do we renegotiate that contract again?
That's, I believe, in 2019,
What month?
Next year.
next year. Yes, sir.
Next summer?
Yes, sir. We'll start negotiating around May, June.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to ask Chief.
I-
Chief? Oh, go ahead,
Before
sir.
you, I recommend we do not approve this. This should be part of contract negotiations. Should be brought up by the union, I believe. I don't think it's our place. But I think it belongs in contract negotiation if we have any consideration at all. It's my opinion.
If we don't use the $5,000 from workman's comp, does that roll over? Do we lose that?
I'm not certain. I would have to ask Lisa.
It's from Cigna, and it ends at September 30th, so we have time between now and September 30th to find a different way for that $5,000.
Okay.
September 30th. She didn't have microphones.
Yeah, and we do have other options to use that 5,000 for other things and not just,
Can we use it for equipment?
We do have other options. That's something
Yeah,
that we would have to
okay.
discuss amongst
There
the,
was-
amongst
all
the
right, we have a
members.
motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
What's the motion again?
Your motion of approving the membership?
Okay. I'm making sure, yes. Aye.
No.
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 This time.
No.
Okay, motion fails. Thank you. Station 27, parking structure.
Yes, gentlemen, this is just basically an update. On the 18th, it goes before the city council. Of course, I'll be there. If any member of the board would like to attend as well.
When is it? When's the meeting?
The 18th.
Is it an evening meeting or?
I think it's the morning meeting.
Morning meeting.
Yeah, it's the morning meeting. Yes, sir. So that's all I have, is just that you're well aware of the situation and the three different options that were
And
put
what are
in
they,
place.
what are they looking at? Are
They're
they
looking at the Cheeky Hut.
The Cheeky, okay.
Yes, sir. That is the particular design that they will be looking at. There may be something attached to that, but I know that is the design that they were looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item is disposal of assets. I need a motion to approve the disposal of assets report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Chief Daigle's report.
Yes, gentlemen, I have just a few items. I did have, I wanted to inform the board that we are down one position in the administration, meaning one administrative assistant. That happened when Jenny was moved from administrative assistant over to HR. So I just wanted to inform the board that I may be filling that position once our analysis of the need is complete, and that could happen anytime. So, additionally, the park design for the firefighter memorial park, that is in progress right now. We have Sam Vincent, who's been doing the design for us from the city. It's basically in the incipient phase right now. Once it gets more detailed and we get some numbers behind it, meaning also some dimensions and, maybe some potential costs, we were going to look at that and see, currently we have $10,000. Currently, we have $10,000 in the budget for the park. However, I don't anticipate spending that immediately up until we get the full design and figure out how we can, where the board would like to go in moving forward for this project.
I see an opportunity here, as we're in the planning stages of this, of having Nicole or somebody approach some of the local businesses and make it a public-private partnership and have a plaque put up at the park that would memorialize, obviously, what we're doing, and also will let maybe some of our local businesses have their name attached to it, where you can come up with the number, when you come up with the number, you can figure out how much you gotta have to raise, and maybe we can raise half of it through businesses in town. Maybe we can raise the whole thing, but I think a partnership on that would be a great thing both for the city and for the department and for the residents, and possibly we could do something even a little nicer than we could probably do with taxpayer money if we had some private money in there as well with your name attached to the park as well. And there's some pretty large companies, Publix comes to mind, and Carrabba's, and there's several that might be approachable to at least doing a partnership with us to help pay for that.
Chief, I oppose direct contact for this purpose. If you want to collect, and I think it's a good idea, by the way, but I don't believe we should send out any chief or any of the staff on a personal plea for money. We can advertise in the paper that we're doing this.
Well, I guess the suggestion I was going to make is have them go through the chamber and Tiffany, and
Okay.
let Tiffany do the...
Well, you mentioned Nicole going out.
Well, Nicole
Yeah.
handling somebody has to be in charge of...
I think that's a good idea. I think the public would love to be in on it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I agree I think the chairman's correct, and I think this is something that we could probably completely fund without spending the public's money. Everybody wants to be part of their community. Most companies, I'll use several for example, Target, Subway, Firehouse Subs, they allocate money that has to be spent both by corporate and the franchise owner, that has to be spent in their community, and they look for innovative ways. And I think this memorial is going to end up being a tourist destination if it's done properly, and like I've heard it's supposed to be. I think it's going to be a big deal for Bonita, and it'll be a great representation of the Bonita Fire District.
I would make the first pledge if you would like. I would give you $1,000 towards that park.
I wouldn't give it to me.
No, I wouldn't.
That'd go for the planning cocktails.
He's the smallest guy here. No, I'm serious, though. That's
Yes,
not
sir.
a jest.
It's just a thought that,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
I think all of us up here agree, we'd like to have something special there. And the mural is done, we own that park, it's going to be there forever. And I think trying to piecemeal it, at 10,000 here and 10,000 there, when maybe for 100,000, we can do a really, really nice park that's going to be there forever. That's just a thought that we could,
Yes, sir.
we could investigate.
Can I make a suggestion? I would suggest that I have a liaison with the board to accomplish this. If the board is going to be moving out to contact other areas of business, and I understood what Commissioner Fitzgerald said. However, as an elected official, that's something that you could very well do, as from what I understand. And I can check on the legalities of that if the board would like me to.
Yes, Commissioner Murphy?
I'd be willing to be that liaison with the chamber.
I support that. I would support any of us to be the liaison, but Mr. Murphy stood up, and I believe that was appropriate.
You're vice chairman.
I was going to nominate you.
I back it up.
I'll do it.
You good with that?
I'm good with it.
All right, you're the man.
Okay.
Commissioner Murphy's going to be the liaison with the
Well,
chamber.
I do understand that
Thank you.
there are other commissioners as well that have interest in this project, so I want to make sure that,
Yeah, I just didn't want to walk on anybody.
yeah.
I would also be willing to help. I can assist you in any way you need.
Well, I think individually,
Making
we can all do our own
contacts.
thing and ask,
Yeah.
and then as long as it all funnels back through the chief and we don't talk to each other directly and just funnel everything through the chief and not to each other, we'll be within the guidelines of sunshine law with no problem.
So that way, I just want to make sure we're clear here. If you have any ideas, you could bring them to me, and then I could pose them to the board at the meeting on whatever we accomplish between any of the commissioners, to be honest with you.
I think we can all contribute in ways.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything else this evening, chief?
Yes, sir, I did. I had the annual report, but I wanted to move on, since you already mentioned something there, Chairman. But I would like to have the board have a consensus to accept the annual report so we can put it on the website. Are there any comments?
Got my consensus. It was very well done, I thought.
This is the first I've had a chance to look at it,
Okay.
but I'll take your word for it.
It was
have
put out,
pictures in it?
it was put out on the,
You're in it, too.
she sent it out in an email.
Yes, it's on my computer.
Yeah, very well done. I'm fine with it, Chief.
Sir, I did also want to mention, I have to say that, once again, Nicole Hornberger did an outstanding job on this. A tremendous amount of work went into it, and it's not something that happens in 1 week or 2 weeks. It's months.
It's apparent by looking at it. I reviewed it as well, and I
Yeah,
think it's excellent.
excellent job.
I
She
had
did.
one problem with it, just, I should have had a full-page picture of me, not just a little thing in the corner. I just was,
I'm good with it.
They put the best face on
again, I'll say, I need a full-page shot of it.
How come not color?
We'll have to talk to them about that.
Okay.
All right, so I think you have your
Excellent.
consensus. yes.
Excellent.
Okay, you can use that.
I had another honorable mention. I'm not sure if you know, our very own Deputy Chief Scott has been invited to Orlando at a conference of, I believe there's 400 presenters at a conference in Orlando this Thursday, correct? Thursday, he will be presenting on behalf of the fire district for the program that he implemented here, our RFID program, which is radio frequency ID tags, which basically monitor all of our metal equipment, and in fact, all of our equipment in the fire district. What that means is, instead of inventory, basically when you walk in the room and you squeeze a button on a machine, it tells you what's there, what's not there, what you're missing, and what you're not there. So the days of counting IVs and bags are over. And we have that also in our, in all of our stations. So we know, meaning the deputy chief knows exactly what's used, what's not used, what's expiring, what's not expiring, what just walked away from the truck, what didn't. It's extremely valuable. In fact, he's doing the presentation, and just to show the impact it's had on the state, we've had interest. Osceola County has been here to look at the system. Pinellas County has been here to look at the system to implement. Miami-Dade County had an appointment, but they had to cancel out. But they show interest in coming to look at the system. Temple Terrace is coming to look at the system.
You would think
So-
Miami-Dade would have had it a long time ago.
Well, they don't have Deputy Chief Scott.
Hey.
So he's, anybody who knows him understands he's very tenacious with his
They're a pretty
projects.
significant department.
Yes, yes. So I just wanted to give accolades to the deputy chief and his hard work, and to understand that, once again, Bonita Springs and the commissioners allow us to be on the cutting edge of what's happening in our industry. And I believe that was all that I had. Oh, one more thing. FASD, July 11th through the 15th.
June.
I'm sorry, June 11th to the 15th. Chrissy will be contacting you to get a confirmation on that, but just to make you aware that those are the dates. And that is, I believe, all that I have tonight, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chief. Assistant Chief DeWitt? I have nothing, thank you. Yes, sir. Nothing for Deputy Chief Scott? Okay. Nice job, though. And we have read Deputy Chief Madden's report. As usual, excellent. It was a busy month. All right, I have one public comment card from Alex Grant.
Yes, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street. Back on the pension for suppression, for basically officers and higher-ranking firefighters that are both paramedics and firefighters. Anyway, if they retired basically at $100,000, they're up for a certain figure up to 17 years if they were hired before 2010, June 2010, and the maximum after 17 years would be, I believe, $165,000 a year. Now, I noticed that the deputy chief for the Federal Bureau of Investigation that was terminated had supposedly a contract for a pension that he didn't get. But anyway, the pension was, and this is deputy chief for Federal Bureau of Investigation, of $60,000 a year, which reminds me that we had I believe, a commanding officer in the Army, Lieutenant General Stanley McChrystal, in a war zone, and he had a $150,000 per year pension. Also, I know that there were two captains retired recently from Fort Myers, City of Fort Myers Fire Department, that received $48,000 a year pension. These were captains. Now, the thing is, it seems like the pension for our firefighters is way above what is norm anywhere. And I think that needs to be addressed by the board at future, you said you're going to have a negotiation next year of the pension. I certainly hope that that would be something that would be looked at by the commissioners. I mean, our pension is way out of line for rank and file fire departments throughout the country, and so that is a very big problem for the economic future of the taxpayers in Bonita Springs. You're looking at what, $2.24 million for a lieutenant's pension over 17 years, and we have a possibility of having anywhere from 50 to 70 firefighter paramedics or lieutenants or battalion chiefs retiring within 15, 16 years. I mean, that's going to be quite a sum. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Consider a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.